Will 2028 be the first year we finally get to see all of our favorite NFL stars on the Olympic stage?
And after its debut in Paris, breaking is out, thankfully.
Thank God.
But 5 new sports are in. So in 2028, we'll welcome baseball and softball, cricket, flag football, squash, and lacrosse to the big stage. Hi, I'm Andie Morelli.
And I'm Campbell Donovan, and welcome to Ringing In. We are 2 students here at USC's Annenberg School of Journalism and Communications who are huge sports fans, huge Olympic fans, and we will be your hosts for this podcast. We're bringing the top athletes from these 5 Olympic sports in particular to tell the stories of the sports, the rise of the game, and the stories of the athletes as well.
So from veteran football players to lacrosse superstars, we are hearing about every sport from every perspective. But before we get into it, Campbell, there has been so much news surrounding LA 2028. What are you currently keeping track of?
2028 cannot come sooner. There are so many cool things that are being added to LA 28. I'm really excited that climbing is making its debut in the 2028 Paralympics. I have no climbing ability, so I just cannot wait to see this. What about you, Andie?
Excited. Well, I think one of the biggest news stories has been surrounding the schedule that just dropped. First and foremost, they flipped track and swimming. So Janet Evans, when she was here talking in the SBA conference, was talking about how, swimming usually goes first, has its moment, and then track follows. But because of where the opening ceremonies are being held, those are being flipped. And most notably, the women's 100-meter everything final will take place on day 1.
That's insane. They're going to be winded by the final.
They're running their heats, the semifinals, the final, everything on the first day. And it's been a bit of a controversial decision. I asked TT Terry about it last week, and she was definitely a bit hesitant. So we'll see how that plays out. But that's been definitely one of the biggest stories.
And speaking of female athletes, it has just been announced that there will be more female athletes than male athletes in this Olympics.
Yeah.
Huge step for women's sports. I cannot wait to see all of the female athletes I look up to just shine in LA. It is so special to have that in the United States in particular. And I just cannot wait for 2028. It cannot come sooner.
And speaking of these female athletes and their stories, let's introduce our very first guest. Charlotte Hodgson is one of this generation's best lacrosse players. And dare I say, more importantly, she's a triple citizen. That's right, with her dad being born in London, her mom is from Canada, and she's born in the U.S. She grew up with quite the worldly view, and now she is playing lacrosse at Harvard University. She's a fast, fierce lefty attacker who has represented both the United States and Canada on the big stage.
Now, I have had the privilege of growing up playing lacrosse with Charlotte in middle school, and then the challenge of playing against her as rivals in high school. I mean, Charlotte is a force to be reckoned with. I remember all before the game, we'd all huddle up and say, who's taking Charlotte? None of us wanted to guard her because she is just so talented on the field and off the field. She is a pre-law student at Harvard University, a D1 athlete. She's also one of the brightest, most hardworking, and just the most fun people to be around. So, without further ado, let's welcome one and only, the woman of the hour, Charlotte Hodgson.
So I'm from Philadelphia, as Campbell noted, and I'm a senior now at Harvard. So finishing up, I study government and a secondary in anthropology. Specifically, I'm the law and justice track in government at Harvard. So I'm trying to go to law school right after graduation next year. So pretty exciting. And I was a midi for 2 years, and then now I've moved to attack in my older age.
Do you remember where you were when you found out about LA 28, or what your initial reaction was?
I don't remember where I was, but I think immediately we were like looking into how it was, we saw it was being added, but then I was kind of like, okay, is it being lacrosse that's being added, like as we know it, like field lacrosse, or is it some variation? Because I remember before the official word came out, when it was up for debate of being added, it was being applied as sixes. And I remember when I guess like lacrosse is a sport, submitted their application to be approved, basically. I was kind of not surprised it was sixes, but a little taken on off guard by that. And so I think when it was approved, it was kind of just everyone was texting about how is this format going to work? And also okay, if it's getting approved for the Olympics as sixes, will this affect college lacrosse at some point? Not while we're here, but maybe a few years down the road, things are starting to change. And the rule changes this year are already very interesting.
Yeah.
So I just remember being I was like curious about sixes because sixes like wasn't a thing yet at that point. And then after it got approved, all of a sudden we started seeing like sixes teams, like leagues, like all sorts of things come out with that. So I think I was just like most surprised by that, honestly.
So clearly you've played all over the world. How have you seen the sport kind of grow and change since it was announced that it would debut in LA?
When I was playing in Hong Kong, like there were some teams that have really put a lot of money like into growing like the sport. Like Japan, for example, was really good, like really, really good. And someone was saying like they weren't that good like you look 10 years ago.
Charlotte, you've been playing lacrosse your whole life. We've been around lacrosse our whole lives. But how do you expect the world to react to this new sport to them?
I'm really curious to see how it like plays out with people who don't watch the sport because people are going to watch you play lacrosse. Like they're obviously going to watch sixes, and they're going to understand what's going on. But the point of sixes was to attract more attention. So I'm curious to see if that actually does happen and like if it makes more people interested in watching. And also if people like it. Like I am kind of curious about that. Like someone who like has played the sport for so long, I just don't like I'm trying to imagine what it would be like seeing sixes as like the first interaction with lacrosse. So I'm curious to see how that works out. But I think sixes in the end for an Olympic setting does make sense because I do think like we know teams like US and Canada are going to put really, really strong Australia, England are going to put really strong teams out, but I think like it gives a bit more leeway for other teams to like you don't need as many players. You only technically like need six on the field and the goalie. Right. And I think it's just like a super fast sport. Like you just have to be really athletic. Like if you're really fast and can like shoot and cradle, like you'll be fine.
It is so cool to hear from Charlotte. I'm so glad she could join us today.
She is just such a ball of energy, ray of sunshine. I just love getting to chat with her.
And I love hearing from her about how she thinks the game is really going to grow and evolve when it hits the big stage and how she thinks people are going to receive it who aren't as familiar with it.
Yeah, I'm curious if her predictions will be correct. But before we move on and talk to her about all of the really exciting stuff, who's going to be on Team USA, who's going to be on Team Canada, who's going to be representing the sport of lacrosse, make sure that you subscribe down below and tell your friends to subscribe so you don't miss any of our content coming up about the new games, the new athletes in the Olympics.
We are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Charlotte's going to come back and tell us a little bit more about how she thinks the Olympics are going to change the course of college lacrosse. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.